Shalom everybody, hope you're doing well and your week was great, getting ready for Shabbat Parshat Shlach. I want to share with you a thought that the Hasidic Sefer Netivot Shalom shares in this big Torah portion. And so we're learning in this big Torah portion, Shlach Lecha, which means send to you, literally. We're learning about the story of the Meraglim, at the beginning of the Torah portion, the story of the spies that Moshe is going to send into Eretz Yisrael, right? So the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, have been traveling now for some time through the Midbar, through the wilderness, the desert, getting closer and closer to the land of Israel, their final and ultimate destination. And at some point, they have a desire to send in spies. They send in spies to check out the land. And these spies are going to be the leaders of all the tribes, of the 12 tribes. It's going to be 12 leaders, one for each tribe, going in to be this entourage of spies going to check out the land. What is the land like? Now the Netivot Shalom shares that the intention of Moshe in sending the spies and the intention of the spies in the actual spying were two very, very different things. Right? Moshe's intention was that they would go in and they would see the land, they would investigate and check the land and get to know, to some extent, the land in order to understand the spiritual qualities of the land and what Bnei Yisrael would need to do to spiritually prepare themselves for the reality of living in such a land. Understanding, right? Moshe understood that Eretz Yisrael is not like other lands in the world. It's not just another piece of land in another part of the world where another nation is going to live in. Moshe understood that Bnei Yisrael going into Eretz Yisrael is going to be a meeting of a people with a land that is intended to bring about a certain spiritual reality. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't what was understood or what was being thought about by the spies themselves, even though they were the leaders of the tribes. Because they're going to go into the land and they're going to check it out on the physical level. Where Moshe wanted them to check it out on the spiritual level. Forget what you see with your physical eyes. Forget the physicality that you see in the land, the cities and the people. I want you to understand the inner aspect. That's not what they went and saw. They went out and checked out from a military perspective, from a physical perspective. What are the people like? What are the cities like? Are they big? Are they strong? Or are we going to be able to conquer them? Are we going to be able to settle in this land? And after 40 days of wandering around the land, when they come back, they report on the land that's a scary place. Right? It's a place that consumes those who dwell in it. The people there are giants, and the cities are strong and fortified, and the nation is scared. Right? And everything goes haywire from there. With the report of the spies, basically saying that I'm not sure we can do this. I don't know. I know God's been leading us this far, but I'm not sure that we can make it into this land. Right? Scaring the nation out of their belief that they could enter into the land and dwell in the land. Right? And this tragic mistake will be one of the darkest moments in all of Jewish history. Right? And where does that mistake stem from? From their intention, from their perspective of viewing the land, of coming into the land to view it on a purely and superficially physical level. Right? Now I want to take a step back for a second and try to understand this a little bit deeper. Because I think in this teaching is embedded the true nature of the land of Israel itself. Right? Moshe wants to send these spies, and he's told by God, Shlach Lecha, for you. Send these for you, right? For what you're thinking, for what you're understanding, your perspective on things, right? The spiritual, right? To go into the land, as we said, and understand it spiritually, so that Bnei Yisrael, the nation of Israel, can come into this land and be spiritually successful and spiritually connect and understand that this work, to add this as well, that this land demands people to spiritually work on themselves. It's not just going in and working and living and whatever, everything is cool, everything is beseder, I don't have to really work on myself. No, this is a land that demands that the residents, the inhabitants, the people who dwell in the land are going to work on themselves. They're going to look within themselves and see, what am I doing not so right? How can I improve myself? How can I become a better person? How can I make my nation and the world a better place? Right? And on a simple level, that's exactly what was not happening with the former inhabitants of the land. The nations that were living there, the tribes, the kingdoms that were living there before, were completely living in a way that the land could not tolerate anymore. And that's why they're going to be basically removed. Because on some level, what right does Bnei Yisrael have to come into this land that was already inhabited and basically take it over? Right? From the perspective of Rashi and others, says that everything belongs to God. All land belongs to God. Right? And this specific piece of land demands more than any other land that the people live there in a way that is holy, that is righteous, that is conscious. The former inhabitants were not living that way, therefore lost their right to live there. And now Bnei Israel are going to come in and basically, try their hand, so to speak, at living in such an intense yet beautiful and holy land. Right? I want to kind of sum all this up with one last thought, that this Torah portion begins with Shlach lecha, as we just said, right? For you. We see this similar language in another place in the Torah. When the very first of the Jewish people is going to enter into the land of Israel, Avram and Sarah. And he is told in his first conversation, his first communication with God, Lech lecha, which is uncommon language. Both Shlach lecha, right, send to you, and Lech lecha, go to you, are uncommon forms of language. And I believe what they're trying to tell us, both in their own individual places and then connecting them together, is that when you come into this land, when you come into the land of Israel, it's got to be on the level of lecha, on the level of for you. What does that mean for you? Look inside. That you have a personal and deep connection with this land. This land is demanding something from you. You must live in a way that is going to improve the person you are today. That the person you are today, right, is not going to be the same person tomorrow, next week, or next month, or next year. You're constantly going to be striving to improve yourself and to grow and to elevate yourself on an endless spiritual ladder. Right? So Lech Lecha with Avram, Shlach Lecha with the spies, the Jewish people as a whole. When we come into this land, we're being told that this land is a land where we need to live in a certain kind of way, in a conscious kind of way, in a mindful kind of way, in a way that helps us to better understand who we are, our place in the world, and how we can positively affect the world. Now, not everyone today lives in the land of Israel, so what is this teaching, and how does this teaching relate to someone who doesn't live in the land of Israel? I'll bring that teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. Right? He says that on some level, Eretz Yisrael can be found everywhere. Yes, Eretz Yisrael is a physical place, the land of Israel, but it's also a spiritual state of mind. And the work of the Jewish people, who are scattered among the nations, their work is to reveal the aspect of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, the spiritual aspect of it, wherever they are. And on that level, with that teaching, with that in mind, a Jew anywhere in the world could live, so to speak, in Eretz Yisrael. If they really pry, if they really work, if they really strive, if they really try to understand and try to bring into their lives this way of living, this mindful, conscious, aware, spiritually infused kind of living. And we learn that in the future, right, with the time of Mashiach, the time of redemption, the time of peace and righteousness for all of humankind and all the earth, right, that the whole world is going to become like the land of Israel. Why? Because again, it's not just a physical place. It's really, in its truest aspect, its truest essence, it's a spiritual state of mind that we, the Jewish people, and all people who are connecting to this, are meant to bring to this world. Please God, we should receive inspiration from the Shabbat, right, of being sent into the land, sent into our world, wherever we live, whatever land that we live on, right, with mindfulness, with consciousness, with striving to become better people, with striving to understand ourselves better so we can understand our place in this world better, so that we can do something good for the world even more. Blessings and love from the land of Israel. Shabbat Shalom.